All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, this lesson is going to be a little bit shorter than it has been in the past. This one is going to be about Julius Caesar. Okay. So let's look at the objectives. We're going to analyze the setup of Rome's Republic. We're going to critique the way Julius Caesar came into power, and we're going to create an argument on whether one person or multiple people should be given all the power during an emergency. Okay. So if you've ever seen the movie The Dark Knight with the Batman Joker, I'll get into that a little bit on. But if you have seen that movie, you may have an idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go to the warm up right now. Here it is. So the first question asks you to analyze this picture and tell me what is going on, and to be specific. Use details. What do you see? What's going on? Look at the people, in the background, some of that. Look at how some people are reacting, how other people are reacting. Okay. The second one says, do you think people should take politics seriously? Yes, no, and why? Because again, I'm sure some people who that's their life. Anything that one political party does, they get upset, or if their political party does something, they're like, oh, why is the other side getting upset? La la la, things like that. So, do you think that people should take it seriously or no? All right. So, pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. Now, if you remember from the last video, we were talking about how Rome began as a republic, which is again where the people have the power. Okay. Now, there were two groups of citizens. There was the patricians and see if I can remember how to say this word right. Plebeians. Plebeians. I believe that's how it's said. There are two groups. Okay. Now, both could vote. Okay. The only difference was the patricians could hold basically political office. The Philippians, again, I don't know how you really say that, they could not. Okay. Now, amongst the government offices, there were two chief officers. There was the consuls and the praetors. Okay. Now, the praetors were in charge of civil law. So basically, what was happening inside Rome, they were in charge of that, making sure the law is being followed and things like that. But as Rome kept growing and growing and growing, so did their responsibilities. And it got to the point where not only were they in charge of making sure laws being followed, but they were even actually given the power to be a judge in cases where maybe a Roman citizen and a non-citizen had an altercation, some type of dispute, maybe even with another town had a problem with Rome, he basically could be the judge on that. Okay. So here's my first question to you. Do you think that anyone should be able to run for political office? And when I mean political office, I mean everything from the like local assemblymen, you know, all the way up to the president. So people who are in, councilmen for Fresno or even smaller towns, all the way to the president. Should anyone be allowed to run, or should there be requirements? Some type of education, some type of tests. You have to be a particular race. You have to have a clean background. You know, you have to have some knowledge of the law. I mean, whatever it is. So, what do you think? Should anyone be allowed to run, or should there be some requirements in order to be a politician? Okay. So, think about this and tell me why you believe this. Okay. The writing prompts are on the bottom, so go ahead and use those to help you finish off the sentence. Okay. So, we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So, in the first century BC, Rome really started to have some problems. Rival senators, started forming their own little groups and their own little cliques, and they started fighting each other for power. And this caused a real big problem in Rome because, again, these guys were meant to represent the people and help the people, but now they're thinking only about themselves and how they could become powerful and things like that. And so Roman leaders started recruiting armies, and they would hire soldiers, and these soldiers would not swear an allegiance to Rome, but to the senator, to the general, whoever was in charge. And that's not a good thing in a country. The people who sign up to be soldiers should pledge their loyalty to keep and protect the people and keep the country safe and not make this person a ton of money, make sure this person gets become powerful. That's not how it's supposed to work. So a civil war, which is when a country fights amongst itself, basically broke out, and for 50 years, these guys in Rome started going at it. Now, there was one guy who was a general who did come up, and he started started beating people back. Um, his name was Julius Caesar. And at the very, very, very end, he defeated the forces and Pompey, a one senator guy, and basically settled the whole thing. Now, like I was saying earlier, in the movie The Dark Knight, um, there was talk about when the enemies were at the gate, Rome would suspend democracy and put one person in charge, and it wasn't seen as a hey, you're the top guy, thing like that. It was seen as a thing of honor, you know, that you were chosen, you were the one picked to make the decisions to keep Rome safe. And then in that movie too, the girl says, the last guy they appointed was Julius Caesar, and he never gave up the power. Is that statement completely true? Yes and no. Yes, Julius Caesar was picked to be that person to make the decision um, when enemies were at the gates and enemies were attacking Rome. Yes, he was making those decisions. Now, did he decide not to give up that power? No. What happened was, after everything, the Senate basically said, hey, you know what? You should be in charge. They named him dictator in 45 BC. Dictator means absolute ruler. Now, the famous story is Julius Caesar, when offered the crown, the little feathers and some of that he refused it 3 times. He was humble and be like, oh, no, 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 I could not take it. Well, yes, yes, we need you. Oh, yes, Caesar, we need you. No, 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 fight someone else. No, it's too big of a responsibility. No, I can't do it. I can't do that. Please, please take it. No, 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 no one should have that much power. No one should have that much power. Things like that. But he did accept it. And the thing is, his buddies basically saw him as like, you know what? He's getting too powerful. And so they basically set up um, a way to kill him, and they did. I believe they stabbed him 24, 28 times, somewhere around that nature. And this is where the famous line comes from William Shakespeare when Julius Caesar gets backstabbed by his best friend, you know, Brutus, and he looks at his best friend, and when his friend's about to stab him, he says, "Et tu, Brute, et tu." Et tu, that means and you too, you know. Et tu, Brutus, et tu. He's basically telling his best friend, dude, you too, Brutus, you too. So a year later, that's what happens. That's when he gets killed, and his grandnephew Octavian takes over. Now Octavian is heated. He loved Julius Caesar, and yeah, he was like out for revenge on all the people who planned to kill uh, his great uncle, and he did. And then eventually he went after Mark Antony and Cleopatra in Egypt, and he killed them as well. So that is the end of Julius Caesar, but it's also the beginning of Octavian, which we're going to get to in the next lesson. So here's your second question. Who is your best friend? And is there any scenario where you might betray them? Now, before you stop the video, Don't just go, oh yeah, I wouldn't do nothing I would do. Really think about this. Think about life and death situation, either your best friend or your family, type of thing. Would you still be like, oh no, I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't betray my best friend? Again, that's the easy answer. But is there any scenario where you might betray them? Someone's offering you $500 million to betray your best friend, you know, really hurt them, $500 million cash. Would you do it? That type of scenario, you know. So think, is there any scenario where you would betray your best friend? Okay. So I want you guys to really think about this. Okay. So once you've thought about it and you've really gone through and go like, geez, would I, wouldn't I? Okay. Once you've done that, um, make sure your name's on the front page, and that's it for this lesson. All right. So you guys, hopefully you learned something new. Okay. I know again, if you've been watching the videos in the past, this one's a lot shorter because that's how it is in class now. Okay. So you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.